Are you looking to get ready, be prepared, and transform your financial future? Then you've come to the right place. This is the Get Ready Money podcast with Tony Stewart, where Tony has insightful conversations with financial experts who are changing the way we think about money. Catch up on the latest financial trends and hear practical advice from Tony and his expert guests so you can build healthy habits that work. Be empowered with tips for implementing small changes that can have a big impact on your financial future. So sit back and get ready to hear from today's guest.
Welcome to the 100th episode of the Get Ready Money podcast, changing the way we think about money. I'm pleased to be joined today by Faith Teope, Matt Gardner, Chris Mouzon, and Derrick Wesley. In this special episode, we'll be discussing one thing we each think we know about how we can change the way we think about money. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having us.
And thanks, everybody, for tuning in. These are some amazing people, and I think hopefully you'll pick up some amazing nuggets. So, as we get started, let's just go around real quickly and introduce ourselves. Faith, you want to kick it off?
Sure. I run a 401k and ESOP firm, but I'm more publicly known as a multimedia journalist covering topics of retirement, abuse, and raising savvy kids.
Awesome. Mac?
Hi, everyone. Mac Gardner, certified financial planner, founder, chief education officer at FinLit Tech. Also the author of a couple books, Motivate Your Money and The Full Money Bears. And our mission at FinLit Tech is to build a bridge between financial literacy and financial technology.
Chris?
Awesome. Hey all, Chris Mouzon here, financial coach, also in the insurance space. My wife and I have been helping people look at underneath their financial life for a decade now. Our job is to really take the concepts that a lot of the Schwab, Merrill Lynch, Morgan Stanleys of the world are teaching and bring it down to middle America, people like us. So that's the passion, and that's the mission.
Awesome. Derrick?
Hi, Derrick Wesley, owner and founder of IMAR Learning Solutions, and also the creator of Seedlyng Financial Education. We work mainly with middle and high schools, and we can really do K through 12 all the way, but that's our sweet spot. And we help make sure that teachers have all the tools and knowledge they need to provide engaging financial literacy lessons for the students inside of the classroom. And we're happy to be on this podcast with you guys, with all of these experts. So looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, I know I am as well. So, I'll kick it off. Here's what I think I know. I think that we need to help people be curious. We need to help people ask questions so they can be empowered for themselves. It's the old adage, if you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. If you teach him how to fish, you feed him for life. What do you guys think about that?
Well, are you asking for people to be encouraged to be curious?
Yeah, I think that's what we need to do is instead of saying, hey, you need to get a 401k, it's like we ask them to ask questions, so that they think, hey, why should I get a 401k? Is a 401k the right thing for me?
Yeah, sorry, Faith, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, so I love the curiosity. There's a thought or concept when he talks about a mood elevator. And when your mood's really, really high, things are great, things are very positive. When your mood's very, very low, things are pretty negative. But something fascinating happens when your mood is like right in the middle. You stay curious. And I think for a lot of people, because financial literacy or finances isn't really taught, it's not really something that's brought out there and put in their space on a regular basis, it's hard for them to be curious because they just really aren't aware of it. But I agree with you. It would be great if we could find ways to make it more interesting so that people would be more curious and not this taboo topic.
Yeah, I agree. They're going to need to want to be curious in the first place. That's for sure.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
that really
Derrick, do you
connects.
feel? Oh,
Yeah, that really connects with the work that we do with the students inside of the classroom. Just listening to you guys talk, a lot of the students, something we focus on is providing them with financial education on their learning level. And if we give them something that's above their level, then they might fear it and run away from it. So that's something we really focus on, making sure that the students get the learning on their level so they're not afraid, so that they will continue to be curious to want to learn more. I think, Chris, from some of our conversations that we've had in the past, when you talked to me about the work that you've done, I really liked how you present the information to the people you work with. You really do a very good job of taking that fear away to help them understand that no, you're here to help, and it's not something you have a conversation you have to run away from. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on that and how you kind of work with people to take that fear away so they stay curious.
Yeah, absolutely, Derek. I mean, just from the question, Tony, of people being curious about their money, and I think, Derek, you're hitting on the right point. Sometimes it's just the fear of the unknown, and the fear of us not having these conversations frequently, especially if we don't grow up in households where we have these conversations. So really just creating safe spaces to talk about these things, like that old saying in school, right? No question is a dumb question, right? No question is a well, when it comes to money, like, people actually think that they are some stupid questions. Like, if I ask this question that I really don't know, like, I actually may believe that's not a smart question. So creating safe spaces where people feel comfortable enough to have the conversation, because I don't know that people aren't necessarily curious about money, because everyone deals with it every single day of their life. It's like ingrained in us. I just don't know that we have the safest spaces to know how or who to talk to about those things.
That's an interesting point, because what you're saying, what you all are actually saying, is that a precursor to curiosity is letting go of that fear, and potentially having a little bit of an awareness first of something to be curious about in the first place. It's interesting.
Very true. Very true.
I think that's nailing it, is that people don't feel like they can ask questions in a safe way. It's like, even thinking back to class, do you want to be that one student who asks a question and everybody laughs at you? Now you're in, talking to your insurance agent, and you don't want to admit to your insurance agent, I'm not sure what a premium is. You know, what is a premium? I mean, when you all sat with clients, you get that, and you can see that look sometimes on a client's face where they're not really following along with what you're saying, but they're scared to say. And I think as advisors, we have a duty to our clients to say, hey, are you following this? Do you have any questions? And I think sometimes we just charge ahead, with our whatever our presentation or discussion is.
And I think that there is an embarrassment to asking those questions. And I think it's a trickle down effect from past generations that created a culture in the finance world where we've made people think that they're supposed to know these things already. And then all the messaging is fear-based, you better do this or else you're going to run out of money. And so then it kind of makes people cower a bit. So I think we've created an environment that makes them fearful to open up, because they feel like they're going to get that hand slap. It's almost like going to the dentist without brushing your teeth.
That nails it. That nails it. So, yeah. So, anybody else have anything to add, or should we go to the next thing we think we know?
I'm curious. I'd like to go next with the things I think I know, because I
Go
would
for it, Mac.
love to get this panel's perspective on it. I think I know that we need to find new ways to engage more people from an earlier age, just more people in general, about how to teach them about money and their personal finances. Because I have 3 children myself, and my kids are learning about stuff way differently than I learned about things and the generations that came before us. So that's why I think technology is going to be a huge, or needs to be a huge factor in it. So I put that out there. Thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. Money should be a core skill that's taught in the school. It's such an important part of our lives, and I think, Faith, you mentioned a minute ago, is, we expect people to know these things. You turn 18, open a bank account, get your auto insurance, get them, well, maybe not when you're 18, get a mortgage, but, you have to do all these things that you're expected to do as an adult, but it's like, where do you know it? And the kids grow up and they're like, yeah, I don't know, and I saw my parents argue about money. So do I really want to talk about money with other people? Money causes arguments. Mom and dad argued over money. So yeah, I'm totally with you, Mac.
Yeah, I love the idea of getting started at an early age. Ooh, Derrick, you look like you're about to say something. Go for it.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, I think that you're right. Both of you, Tony, you mentioned basically the trauma that we experience, growing up around money, that we may not even necessarily realize that it's money trauma. And if we start those conversations early, and it doesn't have to be stocks, assets, and liabilities, at age 4, but I think we can introduce those concepts. I even just the other day watched my kids halfway get ready for school and then spend about 30 minutes kind of drawing, eating breakfast slowly. And then when I say to load up in the car, then they're scrambling to zip up their backpacks, put their last shoe on, and I thought, oh my goodness, this is exactly how people deal with their money and retirement. They wait till that last moment where the deadline's right in their face. So I think there are ways to get started early on, because those behavior patterns definitely are there.
And so I really want to piggyback on what you're saying, Faith, about financial trauma. I think that could be a show all in itself, to be honest, because that's a major issue in a lot of different communities, right? I grew up in a generation where my parents didn't talk to us about money. A kid was supposed to stay in a kid's place, ask them about their money and how they're handling it, and that's that. I'm trying to do things different with my own kids. I constantly talk to them about investing and how I manage my money. I tell them tidbits of mistakes that I've made. I want to make sure to open the door, so if they have questions, they don't have to feel like, well, dad's not going to answer that because that's an adult situation or adult conversation. No, I don't have to give them all of the details, but I need to make sure that I'm preparing them for the challenges that are ahead. When it comes to reading, for example, a principal once mentioned to me that a lot of parents don't like to come back to the schools and be a part of the community because they have that trauma of being struggling at reading or struggling in math. And so sometimes they stay away from the school because they don't want to show the teacher or the principal that they're not on the same mental level, for example. And so I think it's the same with financial trauma, where we have to find ways to make it a safe space to be vulnerable so that people can talk about their problems and their issues, and know that folks like you are out there to help them through the situation so they're not alone.
Yeah, that's really good stuff. This conversation, when we talk about the technology, Mac, of like kind of what the future will hold or what the kids need moving forward, I honestly think that we need to find a way to get it in their hands earlier for like use case, right? Because we're very, like Tony, very much to what you said, like they're expected at 18 to go do this thing. It's like, but we've been teaching them how to deal with people since they were 4, since they were 3, right? We've been teaching them about their emotions since they were 4, right? Like we're teaching them all the life skills, right? The EQ things. We're teaching them that at a very early age, but money is all theoretical. It's all, what would you do? Or what if this? But we're not giving them use cases to actually say, like, you're 7, here's money, and here's how it works. Now, maybe just because we don't live in a society where they could actually do something at a 7-year-old level, right, with their money. But I really feel like that's what's needed, to put it in their hands earlier, so it's not foreign when they're 16. It's not foreign when they get their first paycheck. Like you've lived for 15, 16 years of your life, and outside of your parents telling you a little bit of things, you don't have a use case. So if it is technology, that could help with the use case, but I really think it's them using it earlier rather than later.
Yeah. And they say that there have been so many studies where financial literacy efforts have been put into place. And then at the end, everyone's still is not financially literate, which whatever financially literate even means, we haven't really identified that either, but the thing is that value is all the same. Time, relationships, money, if we stop to think about it, they all operate the same. Giving, saving, investing, it's all the same. And so I think that we're so quick to try to educate our kids on money when really we just need to connect the dots between how they use their time, something that they do know about. There's a school bell that they have to be there into their classroom by. There's, certain time periods that they need to go to bed. They understand some concepts of time. So tying that into money in small, subtle ways, maybe even not calling it money yet. I think those are how we can introduce it. And because I totally agree with you, Mac, we have to get these concepts in their minds sooner so they're not panicking or frantic trying to grasp taxes when they finally start getting a paycheck.
Yeah, I love Chris's point because we've all been in this financial education space. I like to say that there's actually a formula to this whole financial wellness thing, which is where everyone's trying to get to, right? It's financial literacy, and there's tons of it out there. You can Google financial literacy, and there are thousands, if not millions, of books and sources. But the issue in my mind is the financial capability, or the tools, the implementation, what's being placed out there to actually get young people, or people, period, to actually do these things and develop these habits, which eventually become behaviors, which eventually become who you are as financial traits. So that's what I would love to be able to see. And what I love about this panel is that we're all not just talking about it, but we're actually building tools and building resources and building things that can actually help people. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is such an awesome conversation. I want to give a quick shout out to Rakeem Sabri. If I know everybody on the panel is probably familiar with him. He talks a lot about financial trauma, especially in underserved communities. So if you're watching or listening, he's somebody to check out. I'll include him in the show notes because I think this is such an important topic. So who's ready to go next? Chris, Derrick, Faith?
I love to go next. I have a question for the panel. This came up in a conversation I was having with someone the other day, and they were talking about the older generation, for example. And I think about my own parents who are kind of stuck in their ways. They've done things a certain way their whole life. And now looking back at things, there were certain decisions they wish they would have made. Is it too late for them? Is there something that can be done for the older generation? Even coming back to the technology, is there something out there that can help them along the way? I'd love to hear from you guys, and even hear if you have any examples, any stories of the older generation and being able to help provide some help to them.
I got to jump into on this one, Derrick, because what we're building at FinLit Tech is really, really important. This Motivate Your Money brand. So the 4 Money Beers is for children. We know we need to build tools to get it started earlier. We recently developed a partnership with United Healthcare. And that partnership with United Healthcare, what we're providing them are virtual financial education resources for retirees. A lot of times people think that because you're older, you should know this stuff. And if you never got it, how can all of a sudden you just wake up one morning through osmosis and all of a sudden you understand how to manage your finances? So there is a huge need for it. Certain organizations, certain companies see it, and we're working to develop tools and resources to engage folks no matter where they may be on their financial life journey cycle, growing assets, protecting assets, using assets during life, or passing it on. But I think that's a huge area that needs to be addressed is the folks that really need it, that people think that they should, so they avoid them and they don't do anything for them.
That's an excellent initiative.
Also,
go ahead, Tony. I want to hear from you guys.
I was just going to say, and I think it's that same thing, is especially when you're older, you don't want to admit that you don't know it, especially to somebody younger, is to say, I never learned that. There's always, that emotional side to this where you don't want to admit, God, I don't know this. And had another point that I can't remember, so I'll turn over the floor.
No, but that point, I mean, I'll kind of piggyback on that because again, in the coaching business, like we talk to pre-retirees, we talk to people over 50 that are just thinking about if they have enough, right? There's the one side of the retirement community that feels like they could have enough and they're just waiting for that time. They might have a pension and those things. But you take the majority of Americans that don't have a pension and they don't have that, like they're really sitting in fear. Like Tony, you said, the emotional side is they one know that they've maybe taken their eye off the ball a little bit or never got the answers throughout the working career. So they're sitting in a little bit of shame and a little bit of guilt on that side, right? There's some fear that they don't really know if they're going to have money and if they're going to have to go back to work or if they're outlive it, right? So they're sitting in those things. And again, the other side is they don't necessarily know who to go to, right? If you've never
I think that's
done,
the big one, Chris. That's the big one. That's the big one.
Yeah. Like, and so you're sitting in all these emotional things and you don't have a resource, you don't know where to go to, and you don't know what, then it just creates this landscape that we see right now, where, to answer your question directly, Derrick, right? Like, I don't know if it's too late. Like if you can't bring in income and find a way to now put some of it aside and ask the right questions and get the information you need and do all of these things, it's tough. It makes it really tough. But there are some things that need to happen on their side where they have to be open to information. They have to be open to like changing some things.
Yeah.
Right.
So
yeah, I agree. Because I mean, it's not necessarily too late, because what does too late even mean? But the awareness is really the biggest thing that's going on. Even if they have an awareness that they need to have enough money, or maybe that they needed to invest, maybe they're thinking about also even beneficiaries. What happens to my 401k if I die? But what's something that they're not thinking about? What happens if they're incapacitated? What if the husband is the only one with a 401k? The wife doesn't have a 401k because she never worked, because they are an older couple, and then the husband is incapacitated, like in a coma. Then that 401k can't be used by her to survive. Those are things that they're not aware about. That's not even something that's a commonly talked about thing in our industry, is what happens if you're not quite dead. What do you do in that middle period? So those are things that, why would they even know? Going back to your original question, Tony, about curiosity, how would they even know to get curious about that? It's not even on their radar.
Yeah, they don't know what they don't know.
Yes. It might not be too late, but how do they know what to start thinking, who to even go to in the first place? Financial advisor might not even think about that. Maybe an elderly attorney, an elder attorney, but how would they know to reach out to that person?
100%. And I think the other thing, and this is where I was going to go before too, is there's so much focus on saving for retirement, but there's not a lot of focus on, okay, what do I do once I am in retirement? How do I create my retirement paycheck? How do I take care of that plan? Because so much of the planning industry is like, okay, here's how you set up, your portfolio so you have enough money to retire. This is how you set up your 401k. But you get to be whatever age that you retire from the workforce. And if you don't have a pension, it's like you have a lump sum of money, hopefully, that you've accumulated in your 401k, your IRA, wherever. And it's like, okay, what do you do with it?
Mm-hmm. Tony, if your audience are people who are really looking to get some guidance when it comes to being in that space, I talk about why planning is so important in people's lives. And the reason why it's so important to be curious and really try to seek that guidance out. I talk about 3 questions that doing a financial plan can help. You don't have to be a CFP, because there's tons of software out there. You don't have to necessarily be a CFP. But the 3 questions I think a lot of folks want answers to is, 1, do I have enough? 2, are my assets allocated properly in line with kind of, my risk tolerance and how far I have to go and location and, all stuff. But the 3rd one is a key, is, do I have enough to maintain an income, a lifetime worth of income? And I think the industry is trying to work towards being more inclusive of different demographics. I think you're right. There's still a focus and accumulation stage and building money up. But, you know, when you've got 10,000 people turning 65 a day for the next, decade or 2 decades, we hope that there's going to be more demand for more planning, more conversations for folks that are in that phase of their lives.
And I mean, planning is important, but also what about when they've retired? We don't have a lot of education of when to take your money, when to start withdrawing, and where. Maybe you have some money sitting in money market. Maybe you have some sitting in moderately aggressive funds, and maybe you have some straight in equity. What about if it's a down market or an up market? Knowing which bucket to take that first set of withdrawals for the first couple of years. We don't have education around that. So I think planning is great, but also that last bit of education for when you're actually retired. That I think that's needed too.
That's huge.
And
That's
a
huge.
quick shout out to, if you're a financial planner, check out what Income Conductor is doing in this area. They're creating a lot of great tools in this area on, specifically what you're talking about, Faith, is, the timing of when you access different assets. When do you claim Social Security? Because that can make a huge difference. And the answer is not always waiting till age 70. If you have somebody with a health issue, who may not make it to 75, is waiting to age 70 isn't the best option. So let's go. Who's next? Chris and Faith? I think it's up to you guys.
You want to flip for it, or should ladies first?
Ladies first.
Okay, here we go. What the one thing that I think is missing that we need to know about money is vision. And I think that's such a hard.
Damn it, Faith, you took mine. I should have went first.
There you go, Chris.
All right, continue.
Wait a minute. Sure, it was yours, Chris.
I want to see it written down, Chris.
Let's go. Here we go. Let's see if I can. Let's see if y'all can.
I need a date.
It's there. It's there. Continue.
Well, then we can collaboratively talk on this topic, Chris. I think that it's so hard for people to know what they want. I mean, how many people our age still are figuring out what they want to be when they grow up? How many times do your kids change the idea of what they want for their birthday present before it's their birthday? How many times does it change? We don't really know how to identify clearly what it is we exactly want. So we're kind of moving from what we're feeling right now to what we're feeling next. And so I think we need to start teaching people how to identify that, maybe come up with different tools for how they can start dissecting what it is they're looking for. I spoke to this one couple that they decided to just try out retirement. They're in their late 30s and they just stopped working, tried out retirement for the summer, and then jumped back into the workforce. And it gave them a picture of what they might want to retire into. And I've talked to somebody else who is also already retired. And the way he paints it is, it's kind of like Saturdays. He's still working, but it's more relaxed. And that's what he kind of envisioned for his retirement. So it's nice when you can have a picture of what you're working towards, but then when you really know, so forget about retirement. If you have a vision for what you want, then you seek out the solutions. So we talk about curiosity. If I know what I want, whatever that thing is, then I'll try to figure out how can I get it. And then we can get curious. Then we can develop the awareness, right?
I got to chime in on this one. Just listening to you talk, Faith, it made me think about one of my favorite Bible scriptures. It says, where there is no vision.
Derrick, what are you doing to me? What are y'all doing? This is literally what I was about to say. Go.
Should have gone first, brother.
We're all on the same way.
I learned my lesson. Next round, I'm going
where
first.
there is no vision, the people perish. And so I think that's very, very important listening to you talk, because you need something guiding you, right? And even in education, one of the main components that we use when building a curriculum is that we begin with the end in mind. So we know where we want the students to go, and then we design backwards from there, thinking about the assessments and the activities. But we know in order for them to master this level of content, they're going to need these certain components. And then we also assess along the way until we get to that point of mastery. And so it can be the exact same way with money and saving and investing. If you have that vision and you know where you want to go, that's the first step. Know where you want to go. So Chris, I'll pass it on to you now.
Thank you. Finally, I don't have anything left to say now. Yeah,
Topic.
golly. No, that's why this topic is so important, right? How do we get people to have a long-term mindset, to know, right, that again, they have to have a vision first, so then they can actually do what they want to do, seek out the answers, like you said, Faith, right? To that same scripture, I always say, right, where there's no vision, people perish. In another translation, it says, where there's no vision, people cast off restraint. So think of all people that say like, oh, I have a shopping habit. I have this habit. I can't seem to save money. I can't invest. Well, when you have no vision, it's easy to cast off restraint. It's easy to say right now, I'm just going to do what I want to do with this money. Make me feel good now, because I don't have the restraint, because I don't have a vision. So like this whole, I gave the same example to somebody that had asked me the same question about young people, right? He was complaining about his like nieces or something buying all the shoes, and like, I wouldn't do that in my time. And I was like, well, what's her vision? Like, what does she want money for in general? If she can't see out 5 years, if she can't see out any length of time, those shoes are the most important thing to her. So she's going to spend money on that right now, because we spend money in those areas. It's just, how do we create a long-term vision in people, a long-term mindset, so that they can have some restraint when it comes to their finances?
I love everything everyone's saying. I use a lot of gardening analogies when I talk to clients and talk to people about money. I like to say that you can't eat tomorrow what you didn't plant yesterday. That's fact. You cannot have money set aside for retirement. You cannot accomplish whatever goal you put out unless you put the steps in to get there. And it takes time. Investing takes time. Saving takes time. I think a lot of the big issues, Chris and Derrick, we talk about is when it comes to money and finances, people focus on the fruits and not the roots. They look at all the cool things that money can get you and you can have, but don't necessarily realize, look, there's rules to this game. You need the rules of this money management game that connects this ideal that you have to the steps that are needed to get there. And I think a lot of that's just lack of education, lack of conversations about money, and the fact that that's the tool that we have at our disposal in this day and age to obtain things and to reach goals. And so that's a big one. That's a really, really big one. Vision is huge, but we also need to be able to partner knowledge of the tools and knowledge of the rules to be able to obtain the vision.
Well, I think you guys totally missed my point, because I don't think we need to teach people how to have long-term vision. And I don't think we need to teach people how to plant for a future harvest. So what I'm trying to point out is what I think that we need is to teach people how to identify what they want and hold on to it. Because if they don't have that thing that they want in their face, it's hard to remember to do it. It's why people have a hard time losing weight. But when you have it in your face and you're like remembering, you're like, okay, yes, that is what I want. I want that. Now, let me give you, I don't use gardening. I use fitness a lot of times because you guys know I'm a competitive bodybuilder. I want to hit that national stage and I want to make top 5. I also really want a burger and I really want to eat a dozen cookies. And so sometimes when I'm really exhausted or I'm really hungry, I have to either look at a picture, I have to look at a quote, I have to close my eyes and I have to remember, no, I do want that cookie. And I a little bit want to give up on my goal for the fitness thing because I'm so hungry. But then I'm like, yeah, but it's going to feel so good when I make it to that stage, when I come in with my best physique and I can hold on to that want because it's clear. I've defined it. I know exactly what it looks like. I know exactly when it is. and I want it really badly. And I've taken the time to make the decision, how badly do I want this? And I think that's what we need to teach people. Do you actually want that Lamborghini? Or is there a lifestyle that you're really wanting? Do you want the lifestyle? Focus on the lifestyle.
Yeah.
Do you really want to, get the newest Tesla? Or do you really want to upgrade your house? Do you really need to change the countertops in your kitchen? Is that what you really want? Or are those cookies? Is that a dozen cookies that's going to feel really good in the next year? No. What do you really want? That's what we need to teach people.
And that's, it's called discipline. Literally,
Yeah.
it's what it's called.
But that word doesn't make people feel good, right?
No,
but
you're right.
you tell people we're talking about what they want, and we want to help you hold on to what you want. Discipline is such a thing. It's what you talk about though, Mac. It's habits.
Yeah.
But habits are made when we focus on what we want. Habits are formed when we focus on what we want. And we don't have to worry about that nasty word discipline.
Yeah. You are going
and
to be on that national stage.
I am.
That's right.
But it's really about choices and being vested in your choices. We've all been there. Is when you're vested in a choice and you have a goal, it's easier for you to say no to the cookies because your overriding goal is to make nationals.
Yeah.
But if you didn't have that overriding goal of making nationals, if it was casual, like, it'd be cool to make nationals, but I don't really care, then you probably have the cookies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the other thing is we have to help people make those choices. And when they come to certain intersections where they're thinking about, okay, do I buy the new Tesla or do I contribute to my 401ks? Remind them like, okay, well, this is the ramification of your choices. Keep the eye on the prize and help them. But it, I think again, it's, it's up to people.
Yeah.
And it's up to our customers and for us to help guide them. So, in the interest of time, Chris, do you have anything left or did we take everything from you?
I can give you one. I can give you something else. I know a lot of stuff. But one of the things that I know that we really do, I think people in general just need to focus on is inspecting what you expect. I had a mentor of mine say, you got to inspect what you expect. And a lot of times what I find is we're not looking at our money. We're not looking at our money and actually like touching it and seeing it as often as we need to. There's so many people, take the retirement situation, right? Someone sit down with a lot of people. Hey, I'd want to retire at this age. How often do you check your 401k? How often do you check your investments? I just let them go. I don't even look at them. I set it aside and okay, well, the likelihood of us getting there, if you're not actually inspecting it, is going to be low, right? Take your youth. Oh, I want the Lamborghini, right? I want to be the multimillionaire. Well, how often are we looking at your budget right now? I don't look at my numbers. I don't budget. All right. Well, so how do we expect to get there, right? So this notion of like this out of sight, out of mind, it just doesn't work for us building to the financial life that we want to get to. So how do we help people inspect their financial life more, touch it more, be more present with it? I think that's something that we really can help shift how people now are dealing with their finances.
I'll jump in quickly on this because I've spoken to folks about. We did a top 10 talking to advisors, talking to people. Hey, what do you think of the top 3 rules? I apologize, top 3 rules. And one of the things that came up was the use of technology, Chris, and how technology is now allowing people to better focus, to better maintain, to better keep track of their financial stuff. So I think that is a really cool thing to keep an eye on. 10, 15 years ago, there weren't Mint apps. There weren't all these budgeting apps. There weren't these ability to invest. There weren't these ability to get a loan, all these great things. So I think that is something that can help. The other side of that coin, though, because there's so many apps that can help you do stuff with your money, there's not a lot of tech out there that's helping to teach people what to do with their money. And so that I can see as technology being a great tool. It can also be an issue where, because we're moving from a society where we have cash readily available, where I can use my phone and I can literally buy anything I need. We just need to be a lot more careful.
And Chris, listening to you talk, and especially the point about the touching the money and paying attention to it and watching how it moves, that made me think about dealing with my own kids. So when it comes to me buying a toy or some shoes or whatever it is they might want, oh, Dad, just give your debit card, give your credit card. There's no, they don't care. It doesn't matter. It's coming from Dad's account. But if we go through the process, if I tell them, no, you're going to work for this money that you want to buy this toy that you want, okay, they'll put in the time, they'll earn the money, and then when it's time to go grab their wallet, get the cash, drive to the store, see how much it costs. The game might cost $50. And now they're starting to question themselves and say, that's a lot of money. I work really hard for this money. Maybe I'll get this game over here for $20 and I still have some money left over. And that happens 90% of the time. They change their mind throughout that whole process and they realize, I really don't I wanted it, but I don't really need it, and I worked hard for this money, so I'm not going to just give it away that easy now. So that what you shared just really made me think about that, and I think more parents need to keep that in mind when dealing with their kids. Make sure they can touch it, see it, feel it, and then go through that process, and maybe that's going to teach them a lesson in itself.
Yeah. The closer we are to our money, the more we touch it, the more we take personal responsibility for it, the more we're intimate with it, like the more it means something to us. So that's why in that same example, Derrick, like the debit card that you just give them, it doesn't mean anything to them. You're swiping. But when they had to go through the steps and they saw how much is in the account, and now it means something. And so, us making sure that people can touch their money, can have access to it, see it on a daily basis, can help them maybe even craft that vision and see like, hey, what do I want most? And how close am I to getting what I want most?
Yeah, well, this is awesome. So, to close out, just keeping it on the time, everyone, because this has been a fabulous conversation. We could probably go for hours. I don't know if anybody's still watching or listening this late in the episode. Thanks for sticking with us this long. Maybe to close out, maybe one thing you learned today from the conversation. Faith, you want to kick that off?
Ooh, I get to go first. Okay. The one thing that I learned, well, I learned several things. One thing that really I came to a blaring realization is that I realized that this conversation was very privileged. And as I think about all the different cultures, this was an interesting moment for me to realize that a lot of these things that we're talking about, it's all impacted by our American culture and what we're exposed to, what's normal, and how we see money. So my takeaway from that is going to be, as I think about when I talk with even my own kids about it, is kind of taking into account the surroundings, who we're involved with, the lifestyle that we've got, so that I can use that when I'm translating everything to them about money.
Chris, I'm going to let you go next just so nobody else gets on.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you for that respect. I appreciate it. No, man, always pick up so much when we have financial conversations. And I think the thing that's just standing out to me the most is how to continue to have these conversations, because we all do have different perspectives of what is out there, what the solutions are. So I think the more that we can have these conversations and get different groups of people and people with different backgrounds to come on, I think we can really work towards the solutions needed to help move the next generations and this current generations forward in their financial education. So just getting new perspectives, hearing from all of you, really my takeaway.
Awesome. Derrick?
So the main thing I took away is fear and curiosity. And for us at Seedlyng, dealing with teachers and students, principals, sometimes parents also, we just need to make sure we're doing a good job of taking the fear away so that they can stay curious, to want to learn more about those things that they didn't know. And so they can come to people like the folks in this panel to have those conversations that they might be fearful of. So that's my job. That's my challenge. And so hopefully we can accomplish our goals.
I'll run anchor for the track runners out there. The two things that I took away from this time together, one is storytelling. I like to say that all we are at the end of our days is a collection of stories. We all have amazing stories of things that we've gone through, things that we've done that more people need to hear about. The other thing is socialization of this topic. Everyone has talked about people at different demographics and different points of their life. I think the more we can start socializing conversations about money, reducing fear, the reason why people speak the language that they speak, believe in the higher being that they believe in, eat the food that they eat, is because it's socialized from a very early age. So I think if we can start socializing a lot of these conversations, a lot of these topics around money, money management, money habits, I think really cool things can happen, and it can happen at any age.
And I think my big takeaway is that, it's about understanding people and helping people make their own choices and decisions. So one thing I didn't hear from anybody was like an investment, recommendation. Nobody said, "Hey, buy gold," because that's going to solve financial literacy. And for anybody watching or listening, that is not an endorsement to buy gold. But that it's really, that these are the big issues, is that we have to help people answer questions, like Mac, you said, is, am I going to be comfortable in retirement? And, Faith, maybe you talked about, like, is my family going to be taken care of? Am I making those choices? And I think that's, for me, the big takeaway. So, real quick, where can people catch up with you? Chris, where can people catch up with you and find out what you're up to?
Yeah, so everywhere on social at Mouzon1. So my first initial, last name, Mouzon, and then the number 1 across all platforms. LinkedIn is a good place to find me. Also, our Business United Agency's YouTube channel, got a bunch of content up over there as well.
And shout out to Chris's Instagram channel. He's got some good little short clips on there. Derrick.
So you can find me. I'm mainly on LinkedIn and Twitter. So yeah, definitely reach out to me and connect on LinkedIn. You can learn more about our programs that we offer at Seedlyng, SEEDLYNG.com. And yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Mac.
You can find me LinkedIn. I try to put some good stuff out there. I also have some Instagram platforms as well for the 4 Money Bears for early education tools and resources, as well as Motivate Your Money. You can find me on Twitter as well, sharing the information and the goodness about healthy financial habits and financial wellness.
Awesome. And Faith, how about you?
The easiest way to find me is faithteope.com. And then you can find all my social channels, although I am on every single platform and also every single podcasting platform.
Fantastic. And shout out to Faith's financial literacy series, Savvy. Recommend everybody check it out. It is an awesome series. And as always, to everybody watching and listening, all the links to where you can find Mac, Chris, Derrick, and Faith will be posted in the show notes. So thanks everyone for joining us today and for sharing your insights. It was great having you all on here today.
Yeah, thanks, Tony.
Thanks for having me.
Pleasure's mine.
100 in the books.
100. And thank you, everybody.
Congratulations,
I'm
Tony.
sure. And thank you to everybody who's tuned in today, because I'm sure you've listened or watched all 100 episodes. There is going to be a quiz later, right, Derrick? There's going to be a quiz at the end. So thanks for tuning in to the Get Ready Money podcast. Please remember to subscribe and like this video. Until next time.